It's so laughable and ironic when they put these rules in to try to stop Alabama and Nick Saban. And matter of fact, you didn't stop them, but you made them 10 times better. What's currently going on, we're going to talk about it on this video, is literally the definition of a plan backfiring on you in the worst way possible. It's almost like, for example, you try to give the beast a shot, and that beast is Alabama, and instead of that shot making the beast weaker, it made their immune system stronger and they only got better. And the worst part about all of it is that Nick Saban himself tried to warn you before it even happened. We're going to talk all about it in today's video, what's going on, the entire mess, and also we're going to talk about Dion Sanders, how he just made a huge mistake. As always, if you're new to the channel, you like what you see, I would greatly appreciate it. If you join our family, hit that subscribe button, it means a lot to me. And now without further ado, let's get into the video. A few years ago when this transfer portal stuff was going on and they was about to implement it in college football, Nick Saban straight up said it's bad for the game. Long story short, he wasn't a fan of it and he told you up front it was going to be bad for football. At first, and I remember it so vividly, everybody was saying Nick Saban's a tyrant and he's selfish and blah 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 blah. The argument was, oh, he wants his players at Alabama to sit behind other 5 stars and wait their turn. You also had people saying if a player's in a bad situation or they just simply don't want to be there, they have the right to transfer to another school for a better opportunity. And I somewhat agree with that. Or let me rephrase that. I don't somewhat agree with that. I agree with it 100%. As a fan and viewer, I gotta be 100% transparent. I am in favor of the transfer portal, and here's why. If these colleges and universities are making money off of these athletes, I believe yes, they should be able to transfer whenever they want to. It's their career. They shouldn't be locked in and feel like they gotta stay at a program if it's not a good situation. For example, the most recent example of the transfer portal working out, look at Joe Burrow and LSU. If Joe Burrow would have never transferred from Ohio State and sat it out there and maybe possibly never started a game in his career, there's no chance he'd be doing what he's doing now. Right there alone is a prime example of the portal working out. There's a couple other reasons, but one major reason why I like it, I think it's good for college football because it makes it 10 times more interesting. It gives fans all across the country another thing to talk about, and it's kind of similar to the NFL free agency. But with all that being said, there's a couple major negatives that Nick Saban was talking about, and it's happened. One of those being is that these kids nowadays, they have a sense of entitlement where if they're not playing in the first 4 to 5 weeks, they just throw a hissy fit and they transfer schools or enter the portal. It's not really good for player development, and it's also teaching these kids nothing at all. There's no discipline, there's no pride, and it's teaching and telling these kids if they're not starting, they can just transfer somewhere else. Instead of working hard and sticking it out and earning that starting position, they just up and leave whenever they want to. That's one reason as to why it's not good, and I don't want to be too much of a hypocrite and too critical because you really got to do what's best for you, and sometimes, although it appears like the player's being selfish, it's really a business decision. Why would you work at a company that's not treating you good when in reality you can go to a different company and be the star? You see where I'm coming from. And now what we're about to get into is what Nick Saban tried to warn you about. The rich are only going to get richer. Nick Saban wasn't in favor of it because he's being selfish and not wanting his players to leave the program because in reality, great players at Alabama, they don't leave. You'll never see that happen. But what's going to happen is that great players at other schools are going to flock and go to Alabama. That right there is what Nick Saban was trying to warn everybody about. He wasn't worried about great players leaving Alabama because they didn't start their first or second season. He knows his guys aren't going to leave. What he was trying to tell the rest of the country is you better watch out because the teams like Ohio State, Georgia, Clemson, Alabama, you know, all the top 10 to 15 schools, they're going to get all these transfer guys from other schools that aren't happy. He didn't even say all that last year or the year before. He said that 5 to 6 years ago. Why is that important though? Why is it relevant? Because what just happened? It shouldn't be legal, and it's really not even fair. Heading into next year, Alabama is already returning 9 out of 11 starters on the defensive side of the ball. They're going to have a top 5 defense, no questions asked. To go along with that defense, that even if they're mediocre, they're still going to go 12-1, 13-0, 14-0. Their offense is returning 2 of the top maybe 5 players in the country. Will Anderson, the best defensive player in the country, he's coming back, and the best quarterback in the country, heck, the best player in the country who won the Heisman is also coming back. The most recent Alabama team that lost to Georgia in the championship, for them to even make it there, it was unbelievable. They weren't that good compared to other Nick Saban teams. They was insanely consistent, and there was about 3 to 4 games they probably should have lost. I don't want to go as too far as to saying it was a rebuild year, because Alabama, they never rebuild, they only reload. It was more of a season where, yeah, we knew they had some talent, but you didn't just know how good they were going to be. The next year, 2022, the year coming up, is the year where everybody's like, okay, Alabama should win the championship because they have a lot of guys returning and Bryce Young's coming back once again. And as good as this Alabama team was looking going into next year, there was a couple of flaws here and there where you could point out and say it was a weakness. Weakness number 1 was the running back position. They're losing Brian Robinson, and I love him to death, and I've said it before, I'm going to say it again, but he's not even a top 10 running back in the past 12 years for Alabama. He wasn't that good, and the guys behind him, yeah, they're 4- and 5-star recruits, but they weren't all too impressive this year either, and this was arguably the worst running game Nick Saban has ever had. And with no clear starter going into next year, that was arguably a weakness or a flaw in their game. Yeah, Bryce Young, he's magical, he's one of the best players in the country, but if he has no run support or a running back who can catch the ball or an offensive line that can't block, he's not even going to look that great either. So the running back position wasn't really a weakness, maybe that's too far, but it was a question mark. The other weakness or question mark, whatever you want to call it, was the secondary, because they're losing 1 to 2 guys to the NFL. And really the only other question mark was the wide receiver position, because they do have to replace Slade Bolden, Jamison Williams, and John Mechie. No disrespect to the younger guys, but from what I saw in the Georgia championship game, it didn't look good. You had guys dropping passes, and these are 4- and 5-star recruits. They weren't running their routes great, and they were getting clamped up. Look, I get it. I understand it. You're playing the best defense in the country, and you're in the national championship. I'm just saying, though, as a Bama fan, it didn't look good. The weaknesses and question marks, that's normal for any college team. You're going to have weaknesses. You just hope your great players can make up for that weakness. However, those weaknesses are no longer a weakness, and now they're a strength of the team. And ironically enough, it's all because of the transfer portal. In the transfer portal, and I really want you to pay attention to this because I think it's bigger than what a lot of people are making it out to seem, Alabama and Nick Saban picked up the number 1 running back, Jahmyr Gibbs, the number 1 cornerback, Eli Ricks, and the number 1 wide receiver, Jermaine Burton. Let me reemphasize that and go over it again. They didn't pick up the number 4 or 5th wide receiver, the number 3 cornerback, the number 8 running back. They got the best of the best at their positions. And what's even crazier about it is that those are the exact positions that Alabama needed to fill. And it's not a coincidence. Nick Saban and his staff knew those were going to be question marks going into next year, so they sat in a room and said, okay, let's go after these top guys and get them on our team. Do some of you not see how that's a problem? Nick Saban and his staff can go in the transfer portal and get almost any player they want to. When the transfer portal started, everybody was saying, oh yeah, this is good, because now all those 4- and 5-star backups at Bama, they're going to leave once they realize they're not going to play, and that hasn't even happened. The only players that leave Alabama are either A, players who don't play, or B, players with terrible attitudes. I have to throw this in there because society is so soft nowadays. It's no personal shots at any players that have left Alabama. It's just the cold hard truth. Maybe it's just me, but Nick Saban flat out picked up stars at their positions. Jahmyr Gibbs from Georgia Tech. A lot of people don't know who he is, but trust me, you'll know the name next year. He's a stud. Eli Ricks from LSU, stud. Jermaine Burton from Georgia, stud. You're also pairing these studs with other star and great players, and that's just a recipe for success. And everybody's wondering, and there's even some hate towards Jermaine Burton and Eli Ricks for going to a rival school in Alabama, but it's very simple to me. Great players want to play with other great players. Taking a look at the cold hard facts, Georgia Tech didn't have a winning record, so Jahmyr Gibbs, he's like, dude, I don't want to play here. I'm trying to get out of here. Same thing for LSU. They were mediocre this year. And for Georgia, yeah, they won the championship, but Jermaine Burton's draft stock isn't going to go up when Stetson Bennett is throwing him the football. It's not too complicated if you had to ask me. When you go to Alabama and you're a good player and you perform good on the field, your draft stock's going to go up. That's my take on Nick Saban in Alabama. Let me know your thoughts down below. Before we end off this video, I did bring up Dion Sanders, and we're not going to spend too much time talking about it, but it is worthy of mentioning. We all know, or should know, that Dion Sanders Sanders. He's the head coach for Jackson State, and he's done a marvelous job of recruiting there. He's been great, and you can't say enough good things about him. He seems like a great and humble dude, but on Twitter the other day, he messed up. One of the guys he's recruiting, or I assume he's recruiting, tweeted out his top 3 schools, which was Georgia, Miami, Texas A&M, and he said, "Who will it be?" Dion wound up quote tweeting that and said, "It should be Jackson State. It's time for a change." Some of you are probably sitting there thinking, and I was thinking this myself, why is this that big of a deal? What did he do wrong? I actually found this out a couple of days ago, and it is interesting that is illegal for coaches to do, and you can't tweet at recruits. The only time you can tweet at a recruit or subtweet is when they're committed or signed to your school. I'm not going to gaslight it anymore. That's all it is to the situation. I don't think it's a big deal, and I'm not too sure if anything's going to come out of it, but definitely keep your eyes on it. Dion's probably like me and you didn't know it was illegal, and he made an honest mistake, and he deleted the tweet right after he tweeted it. Like they say, you don't know what you don't know, and he definitely didn't know that rule. Well, let me know your thoughts on that down below, but yeah, with all that being said, it's going to wrap up this video. Hope you guys enjoyed, hope you guys learned something. If you know the channel, what you doing? Join the family, hit that subscribe button, and leave a like for more, and as always, let's be great. I'm out, y'all. Peace.